Picture this scenario for a second. You are standing at a networking event, or maybe, I don't know, you just arrived at a friend's really crowded dinner party.
Right. Yeah.
You got a drink in your hand, you're finally starting to settle in, and then a stranger walks right up, introduces themselves, and drops the ultimate conversational bomb.
Oh, I know exactly where this is going.
They look you right in the eye and they just say, "So tell me about yourself," or, "What do you do?" And suddenly your brain just completely flatlines.
It is the ultimate pop quiz.
Yep.
The subject matter is literally your own life, right? You are the world's foremost expert on the topic.
Exactly.
And yet, somehow, the sudden broadness of the question just completely paralyzes the cognitive centers of your brain. You
Yeah.
feel like you haven't studied for a test on your own existence.
Which is wild, but it happens to literally all of us. And when that panic hits, you default to survival mode.
Oh, yeah, just get it over with.
Right. You just spit out a sterile job title, or maybe your hometown, like a malfunctioning robot. I work in marketing. I'm from Chicago.
End of sentence.
End of conversation. It's incredibly common. It totally kills the vibe instantly. And it's frustrating because you know you are more interesting than just a two-word noun.
We essentially treat it like a hostile interrogation. We give them name, rank, and serial number, hoping that, minimal compliance will somehow satisfy the social contract.
Yeah, and then we just stand there in awkward silence, waiting for the next prompt.
Waiting to be saved.
Which is exactly why I am so excited about your custom deep dive today. We are exploring a transcript from a YouTube video created by the Leo English podcast.
Yeah, it's a great source.
Now, on the surface, this source material seems incredibly specific, maybe even niche. It's actually a lesson designed for English language learners who are prepping to take the IELTS speaking exam.
Right. Highly specific context.
But the mission of our deep dive today is to look completely past the exam prep. Because, well, the underlying lessons in this transcript are actually a masterclass in a universal life skill.
They really are.
It is basically a step-by-step guide on how to talk about yourself naturally, confidently, and memorably in any language, really, in any situation.
The hidden brilliance of using this specific source material is that the grading rubrics examiners use to judge fluency and communication in the foreign language. They're just codified versions of the exact same criteria we all use subconsciously to decide if someone is an engaging human being.
Wow, that's such a good point.
Right. The examiner is looking for the exact same conversational markers that a date, a new colleague, or a stranger at a party is looking for.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how to give a truly great answer, we first have to examine the mechanism behind that biggest mistake people make.
The interrogation mode.
Exactly. Our source material zeroes in on this immediately. It's the habit of treating personal questions like a basic fact-checking exercise. And the source establishes a core rule to break this habit, encapsulated in just a single word: extend.
Extend. The transcript points out that if someone asks where you're from and you simply say, "I'm from Vietnam," you have essentially built a dead end.
A total brick wall.
Yeah. From a psychological standpoint, human beings do not connect over raw data. We crave narrative.
You want a story.
Right. When you drop a raw fact and stop speaking, you give the listener's brain absolutely nothing to latch onto. There are no threads to pull. You force them to do all the heavy lifting to keep the interaction alive.
I always think about that factual approach as handing someone a locked box.
Oh, I like that.
You give them this heavy, dense thing, "I am a financial analyst," and they just have to stand there and stare at it.
What am I supposed to do with this?
Exactly. They know you have this box, but they can't do anything with it. But using the source's extend principle, that is like opening the front door of your house, turning on the lights, and actively inviting them inside to look at your bookshelf.
What's fascinating here is the specific, actionable formula the source provides to help you open that door seamlessly.
It's so good.
It's incredibly effective because it bridges the gap between data and narrative. The formula for a location-based question is location plus details plus personal feeling.
Location, details, personal feeling. The transcript gives a phenomenal example of this in action.
The Taiwan one.
Yeah. Instead of just delivering the locked box of "I'm from Taiwan," the speaker applies the formula. First, the location. I'm from a city called Taichung, which is in the center of Taiwan.
Okay, setting the scene.
Second, they layer in the details. It has wonderful food, beautiful mountains nearby, and pleasant weather.
Much better.
And third, they anchor it with a personal feeling. I've always felt very proud of my hometown.
Notice how the dynamic of the conversation shifts entirely there.
Hmm.
By attaching that personal feeling to a geographic coordinate, you immediately transition from reciting an encyclopedia entry to creating an actual human connection.
It's a huge difference.
If you say you're proud of your hometown, or conversely, if you say, the busy city you live in is too chaotic for your taste and drains your energy, you're inviting the listener to understand your values, your temperament.
The listener isn't just learning where you receive your mail, they are learning how you experience the world. It hands them a dozen different conversational threads. I mean, they can ask about the mountains, the food, or even why you feel a sense of pride.
And this naturally transitions us into much trickier territory. Because once you learn to open that front door and expand your answers, you face a terrifying blank canvas.
Oh, the pressure of what to actually say.
Right. What kind of details are you actually supposed to put on display?
Right, because my immediate instinct, if I'm opening the door to my house for a stranger, is to aggressively clean up first.
Hide all the junk.
Yes, I want to hide all the clutter, shove the laundry in the closet, and present this pristine, flawless version of my life. I think we all assume that in a professional or, semi-professional setting, we are supposed to project absolute perfection.
We definitely do.
But the source material throws a massive curveball here. It explicitly argues that perfection is actually incredibly boring.
It's worse than it's alienating.
Mhm.
The transcript places a massive emphasis on the concept of being authentic and self-aware.
Which feels scary.
It does. The instructors argue that intentionally mentioning minor difficulties, challenges, or even outright failures makes your response vastly more engaging than pretending your life is an unbroken string of triumphs.
The anecdotes they pull to illustrate this are brilliant. There's this one example of a student who was asked a really mundane question about their morning routine.
Oh, I love this one.
Instead of inventing some, hyper-productive 5 a.m. meditation and green juice schedule to impress the examiner, the speaker openly admits that their routine is a disaster.
They are so honest.
They talk about hitting the snooze button 3 times, jumping out of bed in a total panic, and relying entirely on coffee just to physically function for the first hour of the day.
They also highlight a business student discussing their academic major. After explaining the rationale for choosing the degree, the student casually admits that the accounting module is just overwhelmingly difficult for them.
My absolute favorite, though, is the cooking example.
Oh, the Thai noodles.
Yes. The speaker is asked about their weekend, and they recount trying to cook a Thai noodle dish. But they completely ruined it by misjudging the recipe and adding way too much chili.
A total disaster.
They paint this vivid picture of their mouth being on fire for 20 minutes, desperately chugging milk and eating plain bread just to survive their own cooking.
It creates a highly visual, visceral reaction for the listener. You can almost feel the panic.
You really can.
And the source instructors actually formalize this approach into a structure, particularly for when you are asked to describe your personal traits. They recommend a ratio.
A ratio.
Yeah, share 2 to 3 positive qualities, but deliberately anchor them with one honest challenge.
Okay, so balancing it out.
Exactly. You might mention that you are highly organized and driven, but confess that you really struggle with patience when a team falls behind schedule, adding that you are actively working to manage that frustration, of course.
Okay, wait a minute. I am going to push back on this because it feels super counterintuitive.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you were in a truly high-stakes scenario, a graded IELTS exam, a final round job interview, or a networking event with a potential investor, aren't we actively trying to win them over?
Yes.
Why on earth would I choose to voluntarily highlight my impatience or tell a hiring manager I lack the discipline to wake up on time? Doesn't that just hand them a reason to reject me?
That anxiety is completely natural, but it stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of how human beings evaluate each other.
So.
Well, we think people are evaluating our raw data, but they're actually evaluating our social signaling. Authenticity signals supreme confidence.
Interesting.
When you calmly admit a minor flaw, a struggle, or, a spicy noodle disaster, you are signaling to the room that you are secure enough in your own value to be vulnerable.
Ah, because someone who is deeply insecure would never risk showing a flaw?
Precisely. Flaws ground you in reality. When someone claims absolute perfection, the listener's brain immediately flags it as rehearsed, robotic, and deceptive.
Because we all know nobody's perfect.
Right. When you project a flawless facade, you break trust. But when you admit you hit the snooze button, it disarms the listener. You are signaling, I am a complex, real human being, and I trust you enough to show you that. That vulnerability builds rapport instantly.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, authenticity provides this fantastic, relatable raw material. We have our messy mornings, our struggles with accounting, our ratio of strengths to weaknesses.
All good stuff.
But if I just dump a random list of my chaotic failures onto a stranger, I might sound authentic, but I won't necessarily sound competent.
No, you'll just sound like a mess.
Right. The source material makes it clear that this raw material needs deliberate architecture. We need to demonstrate complex thinking.
This is where the concept of the balanced answer becomes critical. The instructors explain that to demonstrate true sophisticated thinking, you should constantly look for opportunities to contrast two opposing ideas.
They use the classic city versus countryside debate as their prime example, right?
They do. A basic answer simply picks a side and defends it.
Right. I like the city because it's fun.
Exactly. But a sophisticated, balanced answer embraces the friction between the two. The speaker might explain that they currently live in a massive city and genuinely love the kinetic energy and the convenience of having everything available at 2 a.m.
What?
But, however, they grew up in a small village and they deeply miss the fresh air and the profound sense of community where everyone knows your name.
They apply that exact same architecture to comparing relationships too, like family versus friend.
That's a great one.
Instead of declaring one superior, the speaker contrasts the unique value of both. They cherish time with family because of the deep psychological safety. There's no need to perform.
You can just be yourself.
Yeah, but they equally value time with friends because the shared generational humor provides a completely different type of joyful release.
It's all about balance.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Using this kind of contrast, pivoting with words like however, or on the other hand, it acts like shading in a piece of art.
Shading. I love that analogy.
Yeah. If you just draw a circle with a pencil, it's a flat, two-dimensional shape on a piece of paper. If you just say, I love living in the city, that is a flat 2D statement.
It lacks depth.
But the moment you add shading, however, the relentless noise sometimes makes me miss the quiet of my hometown. That flat circle pops off the page as a three-dimensional sphere. You've given your personality depth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals exactly why examiners, hiring managers, and great conversationalists value this structural technique so highly.
Because it shows you can think.
It is a real-time demonstration of cognitive flexibility. The ability to hold two opposing truths in your mind simultaneously, like thriving in city chaos while craving rural peace, shows emotional and intellectual maturity. You are proving that you don't view the world through a reductive, binary lens.
And the source emphasizes that achieving this 3D effect isn't just about contrasting the concepts. The actual words you choose act as the colors you use for that shading.
The vocabulary is huge here.
They spend a significant portion of the lesson urging speakers to upgrade their vocabulary from generic placeholders to words with actual emotional weight.
The transcript specifically issues a warning against the repetition of hollow adjectives, with nice being the primary offender.
Oh, I say nice way too much.
We all do. But if you describe your city as nice, your family is nice, and your weekend is nice, you completely flatten the image you are trying to project. A word like nice demands no imagination from the listener.
Instead, they suggest terms that force the listener's brain to conjure an image. Swapping nice for a word like vibrant when describing a city.
That's a massive upgrade.
We aren't just talking about a synonym here. Vibrant changes the psychological temperature of the sentence. It forces the listener to imagine neon lights, crowded streets, and kinetic movement. It has a pulse.
They do the same thing for describing relationships, offering the phrase close-knit instead of just saying, we are a good family.
I really love that phrase because it's structural.
How so?
When I hear close-knit, I don't just think of people who like each other. I think of a suspension bridge. The tension and the weight of life are distributed across multiple interconnected cables, so no single person has to bear the burden alone.
That is a beautiful way to think about it.
That one phrase does the work of 5 sentences. And they pair these descriptive words with specific linking mechanisms, right?
Yes, the connective tissue of the sentence. Words like because, however, although, and phrases like which means.
The nuts and bolts.
The instructors provide a stark before and after comparison. The basic, choppy version goes like this. I like my city. There are many things to do.
Very robotic.
Very. The upgraded version utilizes linking words to create momentum. I like my city because there are so many things to do, which means I never feel bored. It weaves fragmented data points into a single, cohesive current of thought.
Let me pause and take stock here because we've built a formidable toolkit. We know how to extend dry facts into emotional narratives.
Sick.
We know how to leverage our authentic, messy flaws to build trust. We know how to use contrasting ideas to demonstrate 3D intellectual depth, and we have the vibrant vocabulary to paint the picture.
It's an impressive list.
Right, so if I have a major networking event tomorrow, my immediate instinct is to sit at my laptop tonight, write out the absolute perfect paragraph utilizing every single one of these tools, and memorize it flawlessly.
Oh, no.
But the source material throws up a massive flashing stop sign right here.
The stilted trap. The instructors are fiercely uncompromising on this point.
They really are.
If you write out that perfect script, complete with your contrasting viewpoints, your vibrant adjectives, and your strategically placed vulnerabilities, and then you memorize it word for word, it will absolutely backfire.
Because the moment you start reciting from memory, your vocal cadence changes.
You lose the natural rhythm.
You stop reacting to the person in front of you. Your eyes glaze over slightly. You sound stilted, which is the exact word the source uses. Rigid, awkward, and entirely unnatural.
The transcript makes a profound claim about the hierarchy of communication. They state unequivocally that a confident, flowing, improvised answer that contains a few minor grammatical errors is vastly superior to a grammatically flawless but stilted, memorized monologue.
Wow, really? Even with mistakes?
Yes, the human ear is incredibly highly attuned to authenticity. The moment the listener realizes you are simply pressing play on a pre-recorded track in your head, the illusion of connection shatters.
But wait. If we are explicitly instructed to prepare these vibrant vocabulary words, and we need to have our spicy Moodle stories ready to go, but we are forbidden from memorizing the actual sentences, how do you bridge that gap? Am I just supposed to memorize a vague vibe?
This raises an important question. What is the difference between scripting and structuring?
Okay, I'm listening.
The source's solution is to focus entirely on organizational frameworks. You memorize the mental scaffolding, but you generate the specific words in real time.
Give me a sense of what that mental scaffolding looks like in practice.
Let's take the dreaded question about your future plans. The future is inherently abstract, which causes people to ramble.
Oh, absolutely.
Instead of memorizing a rigid 5-year timeline, you memorize a framework of conceptual buckets. For example, in the short term, my priority is, and in the long term, my ultimate goal is.
I see. So the framework is just the transitionary rails. You know you're going to hit short term, and then you just reach into your brain for whatever happens to be true today. In the short term, my priority is surviving this accounting module.
Perfect.
And then the track naturally leads you to the next bucket. In the long term, my ultimate goal is to launch my own firm.
You aren't memorizing a paragraph, you are memorizing a rhythm.
That rhythm creates genuine fluency. Fluency isn't about knowing all the biggest words. It's about speaking smoothly and confidently, moving from one concept to the next without the painful pauses of someone searching their mental hard drive for a scripted sentence. So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive thinking about that deer-in-the-headlights panic at a dinner party when someone says, "Tell me about yourself."
The flatline moment.
Yeah. And we've traveled through the mechanics of extending your answers, having the courage to embrace your flaws, using contrast to prove you see the world in 3D, and ultimately trusting yourself enough to ditch the script.
And when you pull all of those threads together, you realize the ultimate takeaway from this material has nothing to do with passing an English proficiency exam.
Not at all.
The hosts of the video summarize their entire philosophy in one remarkably elegant directive. They say, sound like yourself, just in English.
Sound like yourself just in English. But applied to you, the listener, in whatever language you navigate your life in, the underlying lesson is profound. Sound like your true self, just structured effectively so your audience can properly appreciate it.
Exactly.
Don't be a cardboard cutout reciting a LinkedIn summary. Be the complex person who ruined the Thai noodles. Be the person who thrives in the city but longs for the quiet of the village.
It fundamentally shifts your perspective on social interaction. It's about having the quiet confidence to realize that the most inherently fascinating thing about you is your unedited, authentic experience.
It's so liberating.
The frameworks, the vocabulary, the contrasting viewpoints, those aren't tricks to make you seem smarter. They are simply tools to help you translate your authentic self into a format the world can understand.
You are taking the raw, chaotic data of your life, and you are intentionally crafting it into an invitation for human connection.
I couldn't have said it better.
So, as we wrap up this custom deep dive, I want to leave you with a final provocative challenge inspired directly by the question of the day from the end of our source material.
It's the perfect diagnostic test to prove to yourself that you already possess all the material you need.
Think back to that imaginary networking event. The stranger walks up, hands you a drink, looks you right in the eye, and asks the ultimate question: tell me about yourself.
The big moment.
Knowing everything we've explored today, the psychological power of extending, the magnetic pull of authenticity, the depth of 3D contrast, what is the one most authentic, slightly messy, or unexpected detail you could share right now that would instantly make that stranger see the real you?
What is your version of the spicy noodle disaster? What is the passion you usually hide because it doesn't sound, professional enough?
Let that question mull over in your mind today. How would you frame that unexpected detail using the scaffolding we discussed? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The next time someone asks for your story, we hope you feel totally empowered to throw away that locked box, throw open the front door, and invite them in.